Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah Macintyre. And today's episode is titled Finding Your Light. And it's more of a continuation to the previous episode about creating space and the sludgy pint glass analogy. So hopefully you've listened to that. But it was very much about the concept that if you want things to change in your life, in your experience here, you have to change your energy to match. And one of the things that, since I recorded that Spirit have been talking to me about is the process that we need to go through as individuals. Now, one of the biggest problems that I find as a reader is that the majority of people that come for a reading, not all of them, but quite a few, want to be told that their life was a set path, was set in stone, was predestined, and that they have no control over how it goes. And this is one of my big problems. You'll have heard me talk about this before if you've listened for a while, with going to mediums for readings, psychic predictions, that kind of thing. Because we create our own future. We create our experiences here on earth. Now, I do believe that sometimes there are moments that are brought to us by our higher selves, by the spirit world, for our own expansion of self. So sometimes we have to go through things to help us to grow, to help us to learn, to help us to change. But how that actually manifests, I think, is through our own choices, our own pint glass, what's going on in our energy. Now, that, of course, is separate to, big losses of people in your life and things like that. I'm talking about the day-to-day stuff that you experience in your world. For example, I'm sure you've noticed this, but if you're having a bad day and you're feeling grumpy, when you go to the supermarket, as you're driving there, people will cut you up, people will drive badly, people will be aggressive, you'll go in the supermarket, people will be angry with you, and that isn't actually anything to do with them. It's to do with what you're attracting, what you're creating in your experience, and that is to do with what's in your energy, what's in your pint glass. And I want to evolve that theory slightly as well and talk here about being unique. Now, being unique is difficult, isn't it? It's hard to know who we really are anymore. We are also overfilled with advertising and Instagram and social media and other people's lives. It's hard really to get clarity on who you are. And I think it's even harder if you are in the dark. So if you're having a really difficult time, if you've had a really difficult time, if your pint glass is sludgy, and I'll say this again, no shame in that. I'm not casting shade on you. My pint glass was very, very sludgy. In fact, some of my sludge had turned into cement and took 10 years to break through, and I'm still working on some of it. So this isn't about shaming you if you've got a sludgy pint glass. It's just about understanding that perhaps your energy needs some work. And when we are feeling negative and without hope and in the dark and a bit lost, we often look to other people who shine brightly to bring that light into our darkness. So, for example, with me, when I was very lost and very afraid and very fearful and had no hope and felt very, very unhappy, one of the people that brought me that light was somebody who got me involved with spirit, funnily enough. And she was so fun and vivacious and funny and charismatic that it was like being drawn to her like a moth to a flame. And for a time, I tried to create my own light by being her. Not in a single white female kind of way, but just I would try and see things from her perspective. I would try and hang around with her more. I'd start to dress a little bit like her, things like that. And that's something that we all do, and it's perfectly natural. But what you have to understand is that is a short-term fix. So using other people's light cannot be a permanent state. And on the flip side of that, if you are regaining your light and improving your frequency and sitting in a higher vibrational frequency, then you will find that people in the dark will be attracted to you in the reverse. And it's really, really important as somebody who is growing and expanding their light to have very good boundaries and to allow yourself to pull back from them and say no sometimes and not answer that call. And I've talked about that in boundaries before, but this all ties in. So your work here on earth is very much about working out what makes your light shine. What releases the sludge in your pint glass till you have a beautiful, clear beverage to drink, or nearly clear. And that's not something that I can prescribe to you. And I think that's really important. There's a lot of mediumship out there, a lot of healers talking, and it's very, very prescriptive. One of the things that I think is quite interesting in all of the mediums that I've interviewed on this podcast now is that so many mediums say you have to meditate to work with the spirit world. But when you ask mediums what their daily practice is, a lot of them don't meditate or don't meditate every single day. So it's this one size fits all kind of directive that's coming from spiritual people that causes problems. So I would love it. It would be so much easier, wouldn't it, if I could just give you that prescription and tell you exactly what's going to work for you. But you have to find it, and you have to experiment with it, and you have to understand it's a journey. And part of that journey means that sometimes you will do things that don't work for you, as well as sometimes you will do things that do. But your work, your purpose here on earth, whether you are a medium or whether you're a muggle who just likes listening to my mediumship podcast, all welcome here. Hi. Your work is finding your light and then feeding your light. Simple as that. Finding your light, feeding your light. Working out what dims your light, working out what makes your light shine brighter, and following the light as much as possible. And it's really important to start thinking into that, sitting with that, analysing that. When was the last time that you sat down at the end of a day and thought through all of your actions in that day and tried to chart what made you feel good and what didn't? And if you want things to change in your life, you have to be feeding the light. So for example, if you look back on your day and you realise that the things that didn't make you feel good was going to work, I'm not saying quit your job. What I'm saying is make sure that the things you do outside of work are super light bringing so that they make you feel good to counteract the dark bit. Does that make sense? So sitting, imagine it like a seesaw. You want to get your seesaw in balance. It's been flipped one way into the darkness because you've been at work and Sheila at work is a right butthead and you've had enough and this, that and the other. And then you have to find things that really make you feel good, really bring you joy. And sometimes those things that make you feel good, that bring you joy, that bring you light, you have to work to have. So sometimes when you get in from work, for example, you know that if you went for a walk along the seafront, you'd feel so much better and brighter, but you're tired. And because you're tired, your brain is bringing up loads of resistance and you should just stay in and you should just watch TV and you should just do this. So sometimes you do need to fight for what you want. When I started a beginner's circle way before lockdown, the opening speech that Spirit gave me was saying to people, we won't make it easy for you to be here. We're not going to give you the best day ever so that you can arrive at the circle filled with energy, filled with momentum, filled with positivity. Sometimes your car won't start. Sometimes you won't have had time to cook dinner. Sometimes you'll be feeling tired. you'll have had a bad day. And it's important to step up for what you want, regardless of those things. So when you're on a mission to find your light, sometimes you're going to have to actually seek it. You're going to have to be like Indiana Jones and put on your hat and get out there and seek it and search for it and look for it. But that's important to understand. So many of us are passive. We sit there waiting for the light to come to us. We ask Spirit to bring it to us. We ask Spirit to empty our pint glass. We ask Spirit to change things for us. But we're the ones that have to take the steps. We're the ones that have to do the action. And sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's hard. You all know I had to step back from so much of my work in October. We're now in April and I'm just starting to get going again. I'm just starting to offer readings again. I'm just starting to offer new courses that I'm teaching again. And that's because I understood how much damage I have caused to my own energy by pushing myself down a route that I decided I had to follow. And then now I understand that the peace that I've built, the light that I've built is fragile and can easily be obliterated. And so therefore I have to make sure I'm keeping things in balance, not doing too much of one thing and not enough of the other. A really good example of this for you all is eating. We all eat, so it's easy to understand. Now, you will know that there are certain foods that you eat that make you feel good. And there are certain foods that you eat that don't make you feel so good. And there are certain foods that you eat that you might perhaps be allergic to. I'm lucky I haven't got any allergies, but you can understand what I'm saying here, yeah? And the funny thing is, when was the last time you looked at a meal that made you feel good and thought about it? I can give you a list of food that I have eaten recently that didn't make me feel good, that made me feel sluggish, that made me feel tired, that didn't agree with me. But the stuff that makes us feel good is less obvious. It's easier to overlook. And that's why finding your light is so important. It's important to focus on it. It's important to sit with it. It's important to look at it. So when you're looking at your plate of food, it's easy, isn't it? It's physically in front of you. You know what agrees with you. You know what doesn't. You might try something new. It might agree with you. It might not. I had a very, very bad experience the other day with a Japanese soup. I can't remember what it was called. It wasn't ramen. It was something else. Anyway, they'd put too much fish sauce in it. It tasted like a day in Margate in the sun. It was really fishy. Anyway, I didn't like it. I couldn't eat it. Still makes me feel a bit right now. But that was really obvious. But there was lots of other food I ate that day that made me feel good, that made me feel happy and pepped and was delicious. And it's the same with our interactions with everything on this planet. So look at your energy diet. Look at the people you are surrounding yourself with. Every person you even think about is an energetic mix. You think about somebody, you're mixing with their energy. You talk to somebody, you interact with them, it's a mix of energies. So what are you allowing on your metaphysical plate with these people? Are these people spinach? You know you should like it, but it's much better if it's covered in parmesan and cream, garlic and nutmeg. Or are these people a cheeseburger? You'll eat it, it'll be delicious, but you won't feel so good afterwards. Or are these people courgette? A disgusting food. Okay, you see, some of you will be listening and going, I like courgette. What's wrong with you? Disgusting. And this is the thing. We all have our own ideas and our own tastes. So I can't tell you to eat what's on my plate. I can't say to you that, live on a diet of RuPaul's Drag Race and Nutella and you too can be a really spiritual person, because it doesn't work like that. For somebody else, RuPaul's Drag Race would not be high vibrational. They wouldn't get it. They couldn't understand it. And certainly not eating Nutella straight out of the jar. Have some celery. You're disgusting. And so you have to find what works for you. So again, be looking at your interactions with people. Be looking at your interactions, your deeds through the day. Where are you spending your time? Where is your focus? How are your interactions? Are you trying to bring light to somebody, joy to somebody's day, or are you sitting in a different energy? I mean, spend a day. I dare you. I double dare you. Spend a day where you don't worry about yourself at all and you make your entire mission of the day to make other people feel happy. So tell that lady her coat looks lovely. Pick up that bit of rubbish off the floor and put it in the bin, even though nobody else can see it. Leave a big tip in a restaurant. Smile at people as you walk down the street. Coo at babies, stroke dogs, and just enjoy it, because that will change your energy. And it's not about being in service to others all the time, but it's a really lovely experiment to do where you can see how being actively working on manifesting that light and being that light and sharing that light can really change your experience here. And next time you're having a crappy day, watch how the crap multiplies and nod and laugh and go, oh God, I knew it. Today was a tough day. And acknowledge it. It's all learning. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about only eating quinoa and roasted vegetables on your plate and being a holier than thou, I only drink mineral water and eat quinoa kind of person. It's about the balance. Always finding that balance. Where do you spend the majority of your time? What do you look at? What are you feeding your eyes? Is it on social media? Probably, that's where I spend a lot of time. What are you learning from that? Is it making you feel good? I mean, it sounds harsh, and it was with the most utmost love for people, but the mute button is there for a reason, guys. And if you are friends with people who just keep sharing fear and negativity, sometimes you have to mute. One of the interesting things that I see a lot in my timeline, because I'm connected to a lot of spiritual people, is a lot of people who are proclaimed Reiki healers, which is great. Love Reiki, brilliant stuff. Teach it, fantastic. But they spend the whole of their timeline talking about their pain. Awareness of this illness, awareness of this. Did you know I have this syndrome? Did you know I have that? You're a Reiki healer. You know where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focusing on all of your ailments and all of your problems, what are you feeding? And do you think that that is a good representation of your healing abilities? So often you'll see it in a line. Got spaces for healing clients, XYZ. Oh, I'm so unhappy, everything hurts and I feel like I'm dying and people don't understand I've got this syndrome. What? So mute button, mute it. It's important to have understanding, yes, of other people, but what is that for, really? If it's not part of your experience here on earth, there are so many people suffering in horrendous and horrible ways all the time. And it sounds really cold, but I don't wish to know. I don't wish to know. I don't need to know. It's not in my experience. It's not part of my experience, so I won't manifest it into it by giving it more attention. And people understand the focus goes, energy flows thing until a point, until it's their story that they want to share, and they want you to have attention for it, and they want you to look at their stuff and understand their life, and then they want more of it. So be very mindful of what you're allowing into your energy body. What are you absorbing? What are you putting onto your plate? Are you having second and third helpings of something that makes you feel bad? What are you doing? And really start looking into that. Find your light. Follow it. And the funny thing is, if you're wanting to experience and feel spirit more in your life, that is the foundation of it. You won't feel and experience spirit until you've adjusted the balance in your pint glass. It doesn't mean they're not there, but spirit are high vibrational. If you're surrounded full, completely overwhelmed with a dark and sludgy, heavy, dense energy of misery and fear and anxiety and unhappiness and all of the things that you've been through in the past, and all of this stuff and all of the people that are suffering in the world, if you're in that energy and you've got high vibrational, high frequency, beautiful spirit world around you, how can you expect to feel them? So if you're wanting to boost your connection, or you're wanting to just feel the spirit world around you, or you're just wanting to feel better, find your light. Follow your light. Feed your light. Do the things that make you feel good, and don't wait for other people to come along with you. So many people use their partners as an excuse to hold them back from the light. My poor husband, he's not into all of this spiritual shiz. And if I'd said to him, I can only go to that meditation group if you come with me, you're not helping me to be happy, that wouldn't have been fair. So you have to sometimes be strong, be independent, do it by yourself. Sometimes you have to understand that you need some time alone to defrag. Sometimes poor Alex wants to come on a dog walk with me, and I say, no, I need some time on my own. I'm going by myself. Bye. And he's all rejected. And it doesn't mean I don't love him. It's just I have to find my light and honour my light. And sometimes I notice that my light is being dimmed, and I need to spend some time with it to understand what I need to put down, what I need to process, what I need to step away from. And this is the key, and I know I mentioned this in creating space because that was the point of it all. Time, stillness, quiet. That is how you will find what needs to go. That's how you will create space, and that's how you will find your light. And once you've got the momentum going in the right direction, and you're used to feeling good, and you're used to following your light, and you're used to turning away from things that are negative and looking at things that are good, once you've got into that space, you will find it easier. And it will just, like a snowball rolling down a mountain, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But you have to get yourself into that space. And that's really important. And there will be people listening to this that think it's completely selfish and that we should care and we should put a Ukraine flag out of our window and stuff like that. But actually, what is it doing? What is it doing? And we have to start looking at awareness versus integration. You can know that things are happening and not bring them right into the center of your being. You can be aware of people's struggle. I'm aware of so many people struggling, and not let it dim your shine. And Abraham Hicks have a good example of this, and it's just popped into my head, so Spirit are reminding me of it, so I'm going to share it with you really quickly, which is, if you know somebody that's been ill for a really long time and they've been unwell, do you go up to them and say, right, enough now, you've been ill for long enough, I'll be ill for a bit, I'll take that mantle from you, I'll be ill? You don't, do you? But we do it all the time with social issues and people's unhappiness. Let me tell you about this. I know I mentioned it before, but the number of people that hear that I don't watch or listen to the news so love to tell me it like I'm missing out. I have not got FOMO. Take it away. And regardless of what works for you, you've got to be strong with it. You've got to have boundaries. You've got to honour it. And you've got to always keep it in balance. And there will be people in your life that you love very much who sometimes will dim your light. And it's about recognising that, understanding that, minimising that contact, and feeding the light in other times, in other places. When was the last time you did something silly and fun just for kicks? Do you go on the slide at the park when you take the kids? I do. Do you run sometimes just for the sheer hell of it? Just for the joy of running a little bit quickly? Do you lie on the grass and look at the clouds? Do you go to the beach and paddle even when it's freezing cold? Do you have an ice cream before dinner sometimes? What brings your joy? What brings your excitement, your mischievous energy, that fun, that freedom, that playfulness? And that's the important thing that Spirit want to finish on here, is it is about being playful. It is about having fun with it, experimenting with it. It's not about getting it right first time. It's about understanding it's a process. So you might as well have fun with it while you're trying to work it out. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed episode 20 already. And thank you as always for listening. And don't forget, you can pop over your questions to podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk. I love to hear from you. Thank you.